In this episode, we're going to be talking about managing your investment property, and not just from a property manager perspective, but a whole bunch of other gold that we are going to pack into this episode. So if you're a new investor or a seasoned investor, there is a ton of value packed into this episode. So stick around. You're watching the Smash Property Insider podcast. I'm your host, Nick V. Let's get started. All right. Welcome back, Akira.
Thank you.
Episode number 4.
Uh-huh.
How you doing?
I'm great. I'm excited for this topic.
I am excited for this one too, because this is, I guess, like real world, what you and I do in managing our properties. And we're not just talking about from a property manager perspective, right? We're talking about from understanding your numbers. We're talking about forecasting. We're talking about doing monthly reviews.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe sharing a bit of, tips and insights as to what we do, so that the viewers can actually, maybe do their own thing, use what we're doing in their own way.
Apply it to their circumstance.
So why don't you kick us off with, one of the main things that you and I actually do on a monthly basis.
That is putting your numbers together. Basically understanding the profit and loss of the property on a consistent basis is key.
Yeah.
I think like you and I first said when we got into this, we are going to have to treat it like a business and understand the detail behind it. So look, for me personally, I set up a sheet when I first started saving for a budget. That's essentially evolved over time into then now. Once I purchase the property, I understand the conveyancing costs, the building impasse. I put in all the detail so that I know at the end of the first year, all right, is this property performing for me or have I forecasted it accurately? What is it doing for me?
We probably lost a whole bunch of viewers because they're looking at that going, oh my God, like property's already so hard. Why do I need to have a budget and
Sounds
a
so boring.
spreadsheet and oh my God. Look, I think you and I are property nerds. Let's just be real. Maybe I'm the property nerd. I'm the data punching numbers.
I like it.
I love it. But I think maybe just give the guys a bit of an understanding as to like how much time does that take you on a monthly basis?
Like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
For the look, it depends on your size of portfolio, but I think the key is, and we'll get into maybe the next part further, having a good property manager to be able to accumulate the information properly so that you can just punch it all in into your sheet. It's a nice setup forecast template. So it's really easy to manage it if it's set up correctly. Yeah.
And I think maybe just to give a bit of insight as to kind of what my process would look like is that, end of month, you get a statement from the property manager.
Correct.
Right? Income, expenses, all the rest of it. I then take that and I input that into the spreadsheet that we've got. Mm-hmm. And that takes 5 minutes, literally, not even 5 minutes, because we have it set up. You put your income, put the expenses, and then you can see on a monthly basis, is your property actually making you money or is it costing you money, right?
Yep.
That's probably the most important thing. But when tax time comes around, because we have multiple properties, I just send my accountant the spreadsheet. Here you go. Here's all the income. Here's all the expenses. All right. But then I, because me being me, I take it a little step further and then we add in a forecasting component.
That's key,
Because for me, like we've said before, is that, the property might be negative cash flow today.
Yes.
But when is it not? When does it actually turn positive? Right? So I want to understand the numbers from a cash flow perspective, how that's forecasted. And I have built in inflation into the spreadsheet that we've got and a whole bunch of other factors that kind of influence the cash flow over time. But importantly, above all else, what does the value of the property look like over time using historical data so that you can see, in 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever it is, what the property is estimated to be worth so that you can actually plan and go, okay, I'm going to accumulate up to this point in time. I might want to sell down this property and wipe down some or most of the debt. Yeah. Right. It just allows you to look into the future and then start to make decisions and plans based on what the future might look like.
And the numbers. I think, whilst you were saying that, I just thought that it's literally a business. Like there's no other way to put it, because you forecast it.
Yep.
You then essentially put in the actuals and then you decipher based on those numbers for today, how it can perform in the future.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things, like if you don't look at it like that and don't treat it like an employee, or I guess see how it fits in
yeah.
to what it's meant to be expected to perform to,
yeah.
then you can make informed decisions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I really like that you just mentioned treating it like a business, looking at it as if you're, you know, the CEO of your little property empire, and then really, you know, managing it accordingly. Super important.
Super important.
So if anyone would like our spreadsheet, it costs $9,999. And I'm just kidding.
I got a shock. I was like, why are you saying that?
No. Look, if anyone would actually like a copy of the spreadsheet that we use, please reach out, admin@smashpropertyinvesting.com.au. It is genuinely free. Reach out and ask for the spreadsheet.
I'll get upset otherwise.
No, I'm only joking. Which is important to understand the numbers. That's why we're doing it all, right? But then, you know, in the, I guess, true essence of managing the property itself, kind of a good segue into the property manager side of things. And there is probably a few stories that we've got over the years of how, you know, we've had good property managers, we've had not so good property managers. You can laugh at
it now looking back, but at the time they can be quite stressful.
Let's start with unpacking self-managed versus paying a property manager to do it.
Okay.
Talk to me about that.
Look, I guess personally, I am a big advocate for property managers. I think they're worth their weight in gold, especially if they're competent. It's one of those things when you're investing specifically interstate, you don't always know what's going on in that area. And yes, you can do your research, there's that. But you need eyes and ears on the ground. And that's what they essentially are for me, at least in my experience. And the benefit that they give you is enabling you to mitigate risk. They obviously do their it's quarterly assessments of the property. They check in with your tenant. So those types of things are critical, especially when you have a larger portfolio and it's growing, to make sure you mitigate unnecessary risk. And for me, that is key. Versus me having to go to each property, make sure that, you know, essentially like all the components for the code is met in each building, you know, making sure the tenants are paying on time. That's just an aspect of time that I personally would prefer not to manage.
Understanding legislation being another crazy one that I personally just do not want to get involved with. I think first and foremost, shout out to all the property managers.
Yeah.
They, like we were saying before, they know the most. They are the hardest workers in the property industry.
Yeah.
And I have mad respect for them.
Agree. I think that too.
To your point though, not all property managers are created equal. All right. So we've sort of understood self-managed. You can maybe save a couple of bucks.
Yep.
But you're going to have to do a ton of work to really manage that property effectively. Correct. To make sure you're not putting your tenant at risk or putting yourself at risk. But when we sort of dive into property managers themselves and that they are not all created equally, myself, like a lot of investors, particularly when they're starting out, I tended to look for the cheapest option.
Same.
Right.
Yeah,
I was like, how can I save, you know, instead of paying 8%, how can I maybe get, you know, 5 or 6%? Right. And yeah, maybe you find a great property manager that's charging you 5%. That's possible, right? I haven't seen it. So for me, I am always happy to pay a little bit extra knowing that I have a quality, high class, knowledgeable property manager looking after my investment.
Yeah. Look, I guess maybe just to share a little story around that. I remember a few years ago, there was a flood in Brisbane. And that was when I saw the value of having a competent property manager versus not. At that time, I was on the lower percentage type of property manager and essentially uncontactable. And look, I'm very compassionate. I understand it's a hard time for everyone. Yeah. But one of those things as a landlord, I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing and looking after my tenant, making sure they're okay, and to not be able to access my property manager was really stressful at that point in time. So
absolutely. And when you think about you're the one who the bank's going to go to for the mortgage, right? Every single week and month, you got to pay it.
I agree.
So you want to know you need the communication going back and forward and knowing what's going on.
And someone to be proactive more than anything is key.
Yeah. So how can we sort of help the viewers know what does a good property manager look like? How do we find a good property manager?
For me, it's pretty simple. Comes down to a bit of research. So technology is your friend. Basically, a pretty simple Google search will help you get a good understanding of the rating. You can quite easily find reviews on a property manager and their firm. It's essentially making sure you just do the due diligence to make sure that they're competent. Have a chat to them, pick up the phone, understand that you want to vibe with that person. They're going to be looking after your property. So you can gauge a lot on a phone call to understand what they're about and how they run their business.
I think you can gain a lot of competency understanding from a phone call, 5-minute chat. But I think for me, one of the important things is you want them to be there. There's a lot of property managing businesses out there. They aren't actually even located in the area that they're managing the property. So how are they going to do inspections? Just remind me of that. How are they going to handle issues with a tenant if or when that arises?
Yeah.
So
you want someone on the ground.
You want someone on the ground. You want someone who you can pick up the phone to, and you'll know, because they're going to be very chatty. They're going to be very knowledgeable. They're going to want to actually help you and manage your investment properly.
Agree. And I guess not to sidetrack, but it's one of those things, whilst you're in the process of actually purchasing a property, I always feel it's valuable to, at that point, start the communications with property 100%. Managers.
And I was just going to touch on that. Like before, even as part of your research phase, like you're thinking of buying, I don't know, Brisbane or what, in Ipswich, for example, in Brisbane, call a couple of PMs in the area before you even put any offers down, so that you know which street is the good streets again. Just remind me. Yeah. Hey, I'm thinking about this particular street. What do you think? Yeah. And they'll tell you, hey, that's actually a really good area, or maybe no, it's not such a great street in a really nice suburb.
Exactly.
There's a ton of information they can help you with.
Exactly. And it's an unbiased opinion coming from a property manager. Absolutely.
And again, shout out to all the PMs. They do some hard work. So I think one of the other components of managing your property on a monthly basis is really just looking at the market around your property, right? What are other comparable properties selling for in the area? Yeah. Just so you know, like if you were to sell today, what would you sell it for? Would you sell it at a profit? Would you sell it at a loss? What does it look like? So looking at the sales in the area, what do the other properties on the market look like?
General market research.
But I think also importantly is understanding the rental market in the area. Yeah. Because not all rental markets go up all the time.
They can stagnate.
Same with, all property markets. They don't go up all the time. They might go up, down, round and round. Like
round and round.
You want to know what they're doing, right? Yeah. It's super important. So I think that's just another little insight as to just managing. And it just takes 5 minutes. Go on to realestate.com or Domain and quickly search your area. What is it doing? What's happening? I think is a critical part of managing your property.
Very, very quickly, you can even listen to podcasts, educate yourself, and just continuing to do that is part of the basics managing
yourself, managing your investment. So there was a ton of little bits of information, hopefully gold for the audience out there for managing your investment. And on that note, I think we might wrap this one up. Episode number 4. Thanks for joining us, and thanks to all of you guys for tuning in once again to the Smashed Property Insider podcast. I'm Nick V. This is Akira. Thanks so much for watching. We'll catch you soon.
Thank you.